It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Episode 7 of Two Guys and a Goalie with no goalie this time. It's just 3 guys, I guess we could say. Belle, you never played net, did you?
Nope, never played net, but
Not growing up, not even once.
maybe once.
Maybe
When I was
once.
back in Tom Thumb.
But that was it.
That was about it.
Cass, what about you? Did you play net along the way?
I wanted to back in like novice, but then I played goalie in the moms versus the kids game, and I let in like 8. So
And that was it.
that was it.
That was the end.
Yeah.
No more.
Mom scored a me, and they was just like, no.
No good. We've got Hernan Salas with us as well. It's Dustin Nielson. It's Shawn Belle. It is Matt Kassian. Two Guys and Goalies presented by Oddshark. Check them out at oddshark.com. If you're watching the live stream here over the noon hour, feel free to comment. Hernan will keep tabs on those comments. If there's any questions, he can throw them our way if he deems it necessary. In addition to Oddshark presenting it, also brought to you by Popeye's Chicken and Sport Clip Haircuts. We're going to get into that. We'll play Keep It or Clip It again today. We'll have your Popeye's Chicken poll question, which should be a pretty good debate. We'll get into that a little bit as well. Cass, did you miss us last week?
You know what? I miss you guys dearly.
You don't miss it at all. You don't miss it at all.
You know what? Well, I would like to say I went and had a nap, but I had a work meeting that I couldn't move.
That would have been a real dick move if you just decided to sleep through it and force Belle to come in and work with us. Now, Belly, you were with us and Gager on Thursday. I had no idea how tight you and Kassian were supposed to be, but apparently that's not the case anymore.
Well, yeah, I don't know what happened to our friendship over the last couple of years, but Cass has been alienating me from his life, and I'm not appreciating that.
Cass, I'll let you respond, buddy. What do you say to a guy who desperately wants your friendship?
Last couple months here. I mean, so I'll let you be the judge. Maybe Dusty, you can be the judge.
Okay, yeah, I'll judge.
You guys can be the judge here. So feel free to comment away. But this all revolves around.
First of all, before I let him go, this is going to be a fabricated truth. Go ahead.
I mean, it's not fabricated if it's the truth.
Oh, okay, sure.
So I've been pushing. You know, Sean's been in a great relationship for some time. So I've been pushing for him to put a ring on it because I know he's marrying way up. So I'm like, Sean, you need to get this locked down now. So I've been on him for a while, like to finally, to do the whole proposal thing and to go down that route. And so it's like every time we talk, I'd ask him that question, like, have you proposed yet? Have you got the ring yet? And so he finally got the ring early this summer, and he sent me the text. And I was expecting that when he proposed, he would tell me, or he would tell me like, hey man, I'm planning to do it. Like, hey Matt, why don't you come be a part of this and like help with the experience of like putting the whole plan of how I'm going to propose together so that we can just make this thing awesome. Never got the text, never got the phone call, and then I find out today that he proposed like 2 months ago. He hasn't told me.
Really? But you didn't check in. You didn't check in and be like, "Hey, man, it's how'd it go?" Like,
well, you know what? After like 3 years or 4 years of me checking in like every week on this, I finally, I needed a break.
Well, I just want to know who was the first person to get the picture sent to him. I think it was you. So I walked out, independent jeweler.
yeah.
Sent Cass text message with the ring. I said, I got it. He said, congratulations. That was the last I heard of him.
That was the last season.
Yeah, until after I was on the show, he sent me a message with a little heart on it.
And that was it.
That was it. Nothing.
That does seem like you don't want to be friends with him
That's
anymore.
exactly what it sounds like.
Why? How do you not check in with your buddy?
Thank you.
I do.
Hey, you're in the hot seat right now.
Relationships are two-way streets.
Well, right now it's a one-way street, and it's all me.
That is what it seems like right now. That's tough. All right, so is the invite coming or what?
His got rescinded.
Let's switch mics. Let's get Cass a different mic. Is that one not working today, Hernan? Okay, let's try with that one, Cass.
How's this one now? This one's got a sock on it. Is this better? There we go.
Crank him up. He's still kind of low for me.
It was because Sean had that mic last week.
See, there he's blaming it on me now already.
Like he neglected our relationship.
That's got to be extremely frustrating.
All the times that we shared, and this is where it ends, hey? All the times we've gone through Constantine together, and then all of a sudden now we're here. And yeah.
Did you guys play together growing up?
No.
We played against each other.
Okay, played against each other
Played
growing
against
up.
each other, and then we were in Houston together.
Yeah.
Okay, like from what age would you have played against each other?
I didn't play rep hockey till really late, so it wouldn't have been like Shawn was already the superstar. Like his picture was up in like the KC Twin Arena.
It's a
Still-
KC
still
arena.
is,
Yeah, it's still there.
still
I
is,
see it
yeah.
when I go play rec league. Yeah.
So he was like, highly touted, going off to the WHL, and I was still like playing house league. So it wasn't until later, probably just the last couple of years for me.
Last couple of years of junior for sure.
Yeah, and then junior.
Yeah.
Last couple of years of junior for Shawn, and then for me in junior as well. I was like, who is this guy? He, was first in on a 2-on-1 rush, and then the first guy back because he's
Absolutely.
All over the place.
That was a rover.
2-on-1, turns the puck over. Your feet are like on the far goal line, and somehow you end up being the first guy back to pick up the puck in your own end. Like just
Cash is just grinding all the way along.
I just hung around the red lines. I'm like, I'm too slow for this.
I'm watching Hernan right now freak out about Cass's mic. Hernan, are you going to be able to sort this out or what?
What if I do 2 microphones?
I was going to say, try to put 2 mics together. They're not. They're.
How's this now?
He's not muted, is he?
Do me and Shawn need to share a microphone?
That's
You
not
might.
happening.
You might need to share a
Yeah.
microphone.
You're not
You might need to
mine.
share a mic.
microphone.
I can't believe that you went 0 for 2 on.
This is how good of a friend I am again.
well,
I'm going to share my microphone.
so.
now.
So
We're
first.
just getting real close.
Oh, there you go. Welcome to the show, Cass. Hernan will continue to work on the mic. Hopefully, we'll get it's funny. You've got 2 mics sitting next to you, and you're talking into Belly's over here on the other side. Okay, before we get it, we've got lots to get to, obviously, on the show today. But is this friendship? I mean, is this something that you guys can recover? Like, can you move forward here, Cass? I mean, if the invite does come to the wedding, will it be something that you're willing to, kind of make right here, you think?
Yeah. Yeah, for me. So I'll leave it in his, the ball's in his court. I reached out. I sent a little hearty text. I didn't trash talk him on a podcast.
Yeah.
And so I'm willing to work on it.
We're good, Cass. We're good.
Ah, see, friendships coming back together. That is excellent. It is episode 7 here of Two Guys and a Goalie, presented by Oddshark. It's Dustin Nielson, Shawn Belle, and Matt Kassian with us as well. And we'll run with 2 mics until we get the third mic going. Lots to get to. Let's start with the big news that kind of broke this morning. That is that the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be without Evgeny Malkin. And I believe the quote was, not for the season, but longer term. So for me, that sounds like a January thing. So Shawn, your thoughts? And Malkin's always kind of been banged up. He's missed quite a few games over his National Hockey League career. But for a Penguins team that I think needed to kind of have a lot go right for them this year, how much do you think this hurts Crosby and the rest of those guys?
Well, that's a massive loss. He's such a dynamic player, and teams aren't able to just focus on Crosby or Malkin. If Malkin's on the ice, Crosby has more room. And now with him gone, everybody's just going to be able to focus in on Crosby, and it's going to be a lot harder for them to score.
Yeah, it'll be rather interesting to see what they do, because they also lost Bukestad long term as well. So that's 2 of their top 3 centers that are going to be out now.
Yeah, 2 of the top 3 centers, and then our buddy Phil.
He's gone.
He's gone too, hanging out in the desert. So I think
That's the best part, is that Malkin is out. Phil Kessel's like the current Iron Man in the National Hockey League. Like, how is that possible?
because he doesn't take a hard stride.
You think that's what it is? Like, when
No, he actually does take hard strides, but I don't know. That it just puts all like the nutritional science and like science backing like being healthy and like
Throws it
stretching
right
and
out.
throws it right out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, it's all genetics. It's nothing to do with how you eat.
Do you think other
Stretch.
guys who are in the gym 24/7 look at the fact that Phil Kessel doesn't miss a game and just, I don't want to say hate him, but probably are rather angered by it? Would that be the way to describe it? What do you think?
Oh, without question. That guy's eating hot dogs all the time.
Like-
his body's flexible and bendy. It's not hard.
And then it still works.
There's a lot of forgiveness there.
Maybe
So
that's why it's tough to pull a muscle when you don't have many. All right, let's try it now, Cass. Try your mic. Let's see if it works.
This one?
No,
Not getting anything.
no, not that one.
This one? Still not getting
Neither one. 0-4-2. We'll keep trying. Okay, so I also want to talk about this. Sidney Crosby. Just stick with the Penguins here for a second. Sidney Crosby fighting Dubois over the weekend. Crosby's been known to drop the gloves a little bit. He doesn't shy away from that stuff. But Cass, your thoughts on Kassian on Crosby so early in the season, decided to mix it up a little bit, kind of tell the rest of the National Hockey League, I'm still here. Don't F around with me. I guess I could have said
I mean,
this
there's
earlier.
no one that's really doing that anymore. So I kind of
Yeah.
go like, Sid, you've had a zillion concussions here. Like,
So you're saying, what are you doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
But you're just going to let Dubois kind of eat your lunch there a little bit?
I mean, I'm of the opinion that for Crosby in this day and age, the way that you do that is you just try to break his ankle.
So you just
chop
hack
his wrist, right? Just hack him. And I understand, maybe you get tossed out, but it's like, it's Crosby. You're a superstar. You think they're going to suspend you for 10 games or something?
Man,
No.
I thought you would have liked it.
Well, I mean, I do, but at the same time, I go like, this is Crosby. You have head injury problems. Like you can't.
Yeah, he takes one good pop there and he misses
one
a
good
month.
pop there and he misses it. So it's like, for as much as I love guys standing up in that situation and saying, well, no, like I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm gonna push back. I don't like specifically Crosby doing it for the same reason I wouldn't want McDavid to do it. I'm like, well, no, that's what Zach Kassian's for. If he sees that, then you run in there, you take the 2-5 and the 10, and then you deal with it. Not Crosby.
But what do you think about? I mean, I think Cass makes a great point on the concussions for Sydney, but for a guy who's an elite player and kind of wants to create some space for himself, who doesn't have concussion issues, you could let's say if McDavid dropped the gloves. I mean, remember Taylor Hall fought here at Edmonton, broke his foot he fought Derek Dorsett, and Dorsett's a guy who could get around a little bit when it came to a scrap. So, I mean, do you like to see that maybe as a guy who watches the sport? But what about being on his team?
Well, first and foremost, I think the reason why Crosby fought was because there was a high hit. I think Dubois ran one of.
It was along the board. You're right. Then they went down the ice.
And they went down, and he goes over and he says something, and I agree with Cass, but at the same time, I'm looking at it. If you're a teammate of his, and he's all of a sudden sticking up for players in the same fashion that someone would stick up for him, like you kind of look at him and being like, "Hey, you're a leader for sure. You're a leader of this team, and you're doing the things that not everybody else is. It's not somebody else's job to do it every single time. And the fact that he steps up, that's pretty. I think that's a huge thing for players on the team.
Cassian's sharing a mic today. And he's just
I want to say something.
Keep it right here.
This is classic.
No, I just was going to say, to me, Crosby has proved time and time again that he's a leader.
That he doesn't need to do this.
That he doesn't need to do that. So it's like for some players, I completely get it. Like where they it's sending a statement and making a statement, and I guess he still maybe successfully does that in the moment. I kind of weigh the risk reward, like what leadership are you bringing to it versus the potential for risk injury where you could be hurt for a significant period of time. Not that I don't even know if the stats from fighting or the chances of being injured are too much higher these days, but then like just playing in regular contact, that
just not worth it.
Just not worth it for Sid.
The risk is not worth it.
Other
for
guys,
a guy like
absolutely. Like a Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah. Okay. If
Nathan McKinnon. Yeah. If McKinnon scrapped, I'd be like, absolutely.
And he breaks his wrist.
Wow.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, there's still a chance.
There's still a chance. Yeah.
Which would screw the Colorado season.
It wouldn't screw it. I don't think. I think they have enough depth now that they'd be okay. But I don't know. Sid with the head injuries, it just feels like if you have an injury history, because that's like an acute, like you could blow an edge and break an ankle sliding into the boards.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So it's like there's always going to be risk no matter what you're doing on the ice. It's like for Crosby, it's like someone punching you in the head, trying to punch you in the head repeatedly just puts you in a greater amount of risk in that instance.
All right, so there's a couple of stories coming out of Pittsburgh. Crosby dropping the gloves, getting Malkin. We're going to get to a bunch of stuff with the Canadian clubs, but actually, Shawn, let's go with this because Sidney Crosby fought Dubois. You were talking a little bit earlier about the Columbus Blue Jackets, and a lot of teams like to put out a pump-up video, get it on Twitter like a trailer for the season. The Blue Jackets trailer this year kind of sent a pretty significant message, didn't it?
Oh, it was very strong. Basically, it's all about loyalty and the guys leaving the team, and they start off with the trailer with all the players basically saying, we want guys in the locker room that want to be here. They want to be around the team, from the GM to the coach, a couple of different players. They're all saying that. And I'm sitting there to myself saying, well, hockey is a business, and both sides are going to do what they want best for them. So Columbus, how many times have you guys gotten rid of a player because you didn't want to be? Yeah,
that's true. You're right. How many times have they said, "Okay, you're not going to fit in our plans"?
So what's the difference? So Duchesne left because he wanted to go somewhere else. It's a business, and guys got to take care of themselves, just like the hockey team has to take care of their hockey team.
Definitely shots fired, basically directly at guys like Panarin and Bobrovsky and Matt Duchesne, who came and then left. But Cass, does this not seem like an ex-girlfriend who's still pretty jealous and can't move on? Like that's kind of. I look at it and I go, "Hey, Columbus, guess what? They're gone. Move on. Just go forward with the guys you got." Like I just don't know if it's necessary Because all you're doing 100% is pointing out that you're still bitter that these people left.
So I'm going to take this one step further in the whole analogy. Is that what the analogy?
Yeah, actually, I think we'll pretend it's
an
analogy.
analogy. Yeah. Okay, so we're losing microphones left and right. Hernan's trying to fix.
Hernan's on our technical issues, and he's trying to fix.
Right. That's okay. I'm going to take it one step further and saying it's like seeing that an ex-girlfriend doing that, like jealousy issues and still posting things about the relationship and this and that and this and that. And my new boyfriend's so much better and he likes me so much more. And it's just like, what about all the other guys that see those posts on social media that just go, nope, not going to go there. Don't want to be involved with that.
Yeah.
And I see that with Columbus where it's just like, well, what do you mean if I go here and I sign and I give them 4 or 5 good years and I have an opportunity to go elsewhere and all of a sudden you're going to start, even if it's, not explicitly trashing me, you're going to start taking jabs at me and throwing jabs at me and trying to damage my relationship with my old teammates that are in that room, and try to frame it as if, they don't like me because I'm not loyal to the team because I, have a family and a wife and a kid and I'm wanting to do what's best for them long term. Like, come on, just unnecessary.
It seems a little crazy. It does seem a little unnecessary. That's probably a good way. Good analogy and then good usage of the word unnecessary. You're really coming around here, Cass. Hey, Hernan, the mute buttons aren't on, are they? I know you've been struggling. Well, I just wanted to check. Hernan gives me the old, go screw yourself, buddy. No, the view. All right, some guys are off to great starts, and this happens every year. I mean, guys get off to hot starts. Like right now, Mika Zibanejad had 2 4-point games to start the season. Mike Hoffman's had a great start. Anthony Mantha had a 4-goal night for the Detroit Red Wings. Connor McDavid has had a 4-point night. Austin Matthews, much talked about, has 5 goals in 3 games. Belle, how much, first of all, which one of those storylines intrigues you the most of those starts? And how much do you really read into a good start for a guy?
I mean, there's been tons of great starts and guys kind of trail off. Matthews has been every single year he comes out of the gates hot. And then he eventually trails off. The one that kind of intrigues me the most right now is Zibanejad. 8 points in 2 games. Like, that's an unbelievable start. He's obviously playing with some really good players. Yeah. And I just want to see if he's able to sustain that. That's a rapid pace. Yeah,
Zibanejad's off to an absolutely ridiculous start right now. I mean, I think he's a guy, especially with Artemi Panarin there. They drafted the Capocacco kid, and he hasn't lit it up yet. But by all accounts, he's looked pretty good for a guy who was just recently drafted. And the Rangers are an interesting one because I think everybody can kind of give you a bullshit line and say, hey, I think this team might do well. I think this. But the Rangers have mentioned by a few guys that, they went out, brought in Jacob Trouba. They drafted really high, brought in a prospect who's going to play for them. They went out, made one of the biggest impacts in the free agency in the summer in Artemi Panarin. But really, when it's all said and done, Zibanejad might be the key to a lot of their success there just because he's one of the guys that they've had for a little while and has some offensive talent.
Yeah, without question. He's, he's now put in a place where he's now got to produce. And you bring in these guys that, like you said, and all of a sudden now, okay, you're the point producer, help out, you've got help. Let's see what you can do.
Cass, of all those stories of guys with good starts here early, what do you think?
Well, I was going to talk about Zibanejad, or DJ Z-Bad, as we called him.
Was that his name?
We called him DJ Z-Bad. Well, no, but we called it because he makes he will actually DJ and he does his own beats, he puts together his own music, actually. So
he's not a fraud like you.
No, I just spun the music in the room. He would be on the plane constructing beats. He'd have his laptop out, we'd be on the plane, he'd have his headphones on, and he'd be putting beats together.
Oh wow, how rare is that? There's probably not a lot of guys on the plane.
That do that. No, so we called him DJ Z-Bad because of that. I was just thinking. I remember when. Because I was gone there already, but they traded. So the Ottawa Senators traded Mika Zibanejad to New York for Brassard.
Yeah,
and just going what are you guys doing?
And they gave up a pick too to get him.
I know. And because I remember watching when I was there, and he was a young player. Going, this guy's going to be stellar.
You could tell right away.
You could tell for his age, what he was doing, the minutes he was playing, the guys he was playing against, the way he was playing against them. I went, this guy's going to have a really, really good NHL career. So when they made that trade with how old Mika was, I still was like, I just don't like that trade.
Yeah.
And to me, this is an extension of that. I certainly don't expect him to score at a point a game
Yeah.
pace the rest of the
He's
season.
gonna put up 300 points.
Yeah, but I would expect him to be. I would expect him to produce and to produce well. Like, is he a guy that has potential to get to like an 80 points?
That's what I was gonna say. 85
Yeah,
points.
yeah.
Is that crazy?
I don't think it's crazy.
No, not with Panarin there now and being able to have a little bit of help on the wing. I think that's something that you could definitely look at as well. Connor McDavid, 5 points through 2 games, a 4-point night there. I mean, as much as you're going to expect somebody to get a 4-point game in the National Hockey League, McDavid's one of those guys who could definitely do it. Anthony Mantha's an interesting one. And of course, with the Nation Network, we do have the Red Wings Nation. And Anthony Mantha's a guy who I think they've been bringing along typical Red Wings sort of development plan, right? With Mantha, put him in. He was a stud in junior. They knew he could score goals. Put him in the American League for quite a while. He's been around the Red Wings now for a few years. He's not going to score 4 goals every night, but I think Mantha's a guy who could hit 35 this year. Like, is that crazy? And 35 is a pretty good number now in the National Hockey League, isn't it? Or am I setting my sights too high maybe just because he had a 4-goal night this weekend?
I think he's closer, maybe like 25, 30.
Okay.
35 is pretty high, but Mantha is a really good player. He's going to be the go-to guy in Detroit.
Him and Larkin, right?
Him
like
and Larkin,
those are their two
exactly.
guys.
Those are the 2 guys, and they're going to get all the minutes. They're going to get prime time spots in the power play. They could be out there for 2 minutes on the power play. So I just wouldn't be shocked to see 30 goals out of him.
Cass, when you look at early starts for anybody, whether it's these guys we listed or not, how much, like, we all want to read into it and trade for them in our fantasy leagues and things along those lines, but how much can an early start really help a guy get off to a good season? Like, I know it's just 2 or 3 games, but how much does it help the confidence? I would have to think, like, if any job, any sport, any job you have, if you do well early, it's got to propel you to a pretty good year.
Well, I think it's the confidence boost. It's a confidence boost knowing what you're capable of. I mean, I look at just here specifically in Edmonton, like James Neal scoring 2 goals early, where he had 7 last year, and now to get 2 in the first 2 games. That's a huge confidence boost. I mean, you look at Zibanejad, we talk about him, getting to 80 or 85 points. It's like, well, he has 8 through 2 games. So from a confidence standpoint, you're all of a sudden, what you're capable of. Now, the danger, I think, is if you get to a really good start and then you hit a dry spell for a little bit.
How you deal with it.
So it's almost like if you have that, huge start and then you're okay for a little bit, like you're pretty good. And then because everyone has dry spells throughout the season. Typically, most guys do. I don't know. It's almost like you want to ease off of it, not go from such a high to such a low. We talk so often in sports about, and Shawn, you probably even with your guys now, like that whole not too high, not too low. Like you want to try to remain pretty even keeled, or as even keeled as you can. So mentally, I think for these guys, it's. I had a lot of success early. The success is great. I'm not going to get 8 points in 2 games. All the time, but just know that if I'm doing things the right way, I have the capacity to be able to do so if I'm having a good night. So I think mentally you got to get there.
What I find the most surprising there is that you even know what Shawn does for work, considering you completely ignore the guys he's getting engaged. That's awful. That's awful. But you told us last week on episode 6 there, Shawn, that you're coaching 15-year-olds. That's got to be tough for a 15-year-old to not get too high and not get too low, right? Like, that's got to be one of the biggest challenges for you, I think.
Oh, that's the biggest challenge. And the refs. Those 2 things are outrageous. Actually, we played this past weekend. We played Saturday against NAX, which is our crosstown rival. And that game was just emotional. It was the biggest roller coaster I've seen because it's, okay, we start off well. Then all of a sudden they score. We are completely quiet on the bench. We're not talking. Okay, then there's a big hit, then everybody's screaming, and then the ref calls something, and then we're losing our minds. And I'm like, guys, you just have to limit that. Like, let's calm down, everybody take a breath, and just go out there and play. But it's just consistent with these 15-year-olds. It's unbelievable.
You guys, we were talking a little bit earlier before we started the podcast today. I want to get into it a little bit. Kevin Constantine, we want to discuss Constantine. Now, do you guys both have him?
Yeah.
You guys both had him, different places?
Nope.
Same place.
Same place.
In junior?
No,
Houston.
Oh, in Houston. Okay. And 1 or 2 stories that stand out. Like I've heard a lot of things. All my knowledge is like second or third hand. But Shawn, do you want to take the floor here on Coach Constantine, or Kassian's just like, I think Cass is just waiting for an opportunity. It's not
You
like
want this one first?
Okay.
I'm gonna have to chime in.
You're gonna have to chime in.
Close.
Okay, we'll get real close. I don't mind getting
We
real
also
close.
had John Scott at that time too.
Scott was on that team too.
yeah.
So this is Let me just preface this by saying, and I always say this when I say something that I don't necessarily agree with,
Okay.
or someone that frustrated me, is that away from the rink, with his family, with his kids, I have no doubt that he was a good man, that loved his kids and put good time in and was good to his friends.
So you're saying away from work?
Away from work, at work. I'm just saying that's me. That's my approach, Shawn. This is how I talk about people. At work, I had some issues. He was incredibly, from a system standpoint, from like a technical side of the game standpoint, the guy was like, he was incredibly smart, incredibly detailed. I learned from a positional standpoint, I learned a lot, especially
analytics, hey?
Analytics side,
everything.
Yeah, learned a lot, especially from a penalty killing standpoint. Like I still watch the teams that are successful penalty killing today. Like for all the game has changed and systems change and don't change, but people make adjustments. The way that he had you penalty kill, still you could take the same, and I still have it. It's like a full page of acronyms and like there's pages. We had a test on systems, like an actual test where we had to
Like he
down.
sat the team down.
We
And
sat the team down. We had like a
study.
school, like
Yep.
study. We had a test on the systems, like on a penalty killing, all the rules, like for penalty killing. If you implemented that on an NHL team, your penalty kill would be successful. Like they're still really good. But this is
The details.
The details, yeah.
That
Incredible.
he made you learn to the point where if a lefty was on the left point, where you should force from.
Yep.
Really?
It was incredibly detailed.
Yeah, and I still have that. Like I still have it.
No, that's
The
very
sheets.
rare. Like nobody else. You never
No.
had another coach who made you take a test about the penalty kill.
But I think it made the penalty kill successful. But this is my story. So this is, and you can probably see where I come from on this. So, I don't know, Shawn, if you were here at this time or not. I don't know. You can tell me. Were you there? So were you there? We played San Antonio and a couple other teams. It was in Houston, and George Bush Sr. was at the game. I think you may have been gone at this point. So this was, there's a number of other stories earlier from when we were both there, but this is the one I'm going to go with. Weekend before, we had 2 games in 3 nights. Thursday or Friday before the game. I can't remember if Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday. Constantine calls me in the office and is like, Matt, I don't think you've been physical enough recently. We haven't had a fight in like 5 or 6 games, so we're gonna sit you this weekend. Both games. You're gonna sit out this weekend. So I was like, okay.
Like that happens.
That happens.
Yeah.
So I was going to be like, okay, like I disagree. For me, I was just, and I said this, I think too. I said, Coach, like if you want me to be more physical, you got to put me in situations. Like if you want me just to go out and get in a fight, you got to put me in situations where that's going to be a chance. Like I can't do that from the bench. Like, you want me to punch someone from the bench when I'm sitting in my little corner? Like, give me a freaking break. But I didn't say all of that out loud. It was just like, well, Coach, you know what? Just you have to make sure that I'm getting the opportunity to be able to do those things. So sit out the games, have a good week of practice, and back in the lineup next weekend. 2 games. I can't remember who we played the first game. Second game was San Antonio. So we played Friday, Saturday, both in Houston. Game Friday, whatever. Game went on. Game Saturday, well, George Bush Sr. was at the game. We hated San Antonio. There's a bunch of guys. There's a guy by the name of, we called him Frankie. Francis Lassard. Shawn, you would remember Francis. Played some games in Atlanta. Played NHL
Looks like
games.
Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. We called him Frank. Very, very, very French. And I'll tell more stories about him later. Anyways, I knew like every single game I was going to have to fight this guy. So it was going to be, there's other guys like Ryan Holloweg was there. Troy Bodie was there. Like there's a whole bunch of guys who, and you play each other like 8 times a year, so you don't like each other very much. So I go out, running all over that game, and I got in 3 fights. 3 fights in one game.
Because that's what the coach wanted.
That's what the coach wanted. So I got 3 fights, got kicked out. George Bush and his wife were in the dressing room after the game with Secret Service guys who look like they're going to kill us. Like they're eyes darting around, like, and they can. She's snapping pictures. I'm like, awesome! I just got in front of 3 fights in front of the president of the United States. So it was pretty cool. So then the week goes on. Thursday rolls around. Play Friday, Saturday. Kevin Constantine calls me into the office. He's like, Matt, I've seen you've been icing your hands all week in the trainer's room. They look pretty banged up because you were in a lot of fights last weekend. So I think we're gonna sit you this weekend so you can rest up and give your hands a break and your body a break. I looked at him. I just kind of tipped my head to the side. I stood up. I walked out, and I didn't have a meeting with him the rest of the year.
Didn't say anything. That was it.
That was it.
That was your last interaction with the coach.
That was the last. Like, I'm sure we had like small little.
We put you back in or whatever.
Yeah, but not. But I didn't like to go and have especially like me initiated conversation about anything.
Yeah.
That was it. He completely lost me in that moment. Completely lost me. Where I was just like it just made me mad. I was mad.
It makes you want to fight somebody right now.
Like it just got even worse. And after that point, like our goalie Wade Dubowitz was our goalie. Like if you remember, he's just a funny little guy. He had problems sleeping. Had a whole bunch of kids. Like so he's on medication to help him sleep. And I guess he had taken one too late into the night, like the night before practice. In Constantine, you had video sessions for like an hour 45 minutes every morning. Like in dark room, full video screen, hour 45 minutes. So Doobie was on sleep medication to help him sleep because he had a problem sleeping. So he falls asleep in the meeting. Constantine obviously loses it. Everyone gets dressed, goes out for practice. Wade's trying to go get on the ice, and Constantine kicks him off. He's like, "Go watch." Like makes him sit in the first row of seats in the practice rink. Because he fell asleep in the meeting. So practice starts going on. Everyone understands this. That part was fine. We're like, okay, you keep him off for a few minutes. But then we start getting like 15 minutes into practice, 20 minutes into practice. And so our captain, John DeSalvatore, goes up to Constantine, was like, okay, like you made your point. We understand like what you're doing. Like, can you please let him get back on the ice so we can actually practice with the goal? Like, so we can have a real professional practice.
Nobody wants to go post and practice.
Constantine wouldn't let him do it. Like, would not let it happen. Kept him off the entire practice. Made him sit there. I mean, they ended up Constantine and DeSalvatore at that point got into a big fight, and then everyone blew up. And everyone's on DeSalvatore's side because like, we want a goalie for practice.
Yeah,
like, come on. So there's a number of things like. To me, he is a good coach for junior players where you need to dictate absolutely everything and you can control
with some
about
significant structure.
Right. Where for professional players, it's just, you just can't do it. And again, for me, the moment he lost me was like, you sit me one weekend, you tell me I need to fight more. I go get in 3 fights in 2 games, 3 in one night, and then I'm like trying to take care of my body, and then you keep me out of the lineup for that? Like, come on.
That is kind of ridiculous.
You lose me.
We need you to be more physical. Okay, wait a second. You're being too physical. Your hands are banged up.
Yeah,
you're out again.
You're out again. Like,
Cass, I'm starting to think he just didn't want you in the lineup.
No, I'm starting to think so too. But you know what? But say it. Just say it.
You're right.
Like, just say it to me.
That's true, actually. Just be straight up with you. Well, that's a pretty tough story to top, Belle. You did tell me, we were texting, you're like, Kassian's going to be pretty fired up talking about Constantine, but you've got good ones too?
I've got a couple good ones.
Really?
So I've got 3. 2 are fairly short, and one's just ridiculous. And so I'll start with the first one. Myself and Benoit Pouliot, we both got sent down from Minnesota. And Kevin Constantine's the type of guy that if he has stats on you, that's what he's going to make his lineup with. That's how he's going to dictate who's playing, who doesn't. So I will openly admit, when I got sent down, I wasn't very happy, and I wasn't very good. Like, first 5 games, I was not good.
You just weren't in it. You weren't good to go.
It's an adjustment coming down from the NHL to the AHL, and so I just really wasn't good. So here come the stats, right? They roll out the first 5 games, and my stats are garbage. So, there's stat on goals against, if you were on the ice for it, was it your mistake? Like, it goes on and on and on. And so we're going through the season. All of a sudden, now I sit for 10 games in a row. Healthy scratch.
He healthy scratch in the A for 10 straight games?
10 straight games. And so I go meet the guy. I go meet him. And he says to me, well, Shawn, your stats aren't very good. I said, okay, well, you've been playing me here and there. Now we're in the point where it's a 10-gamer. I said, how do you expect me to improve my stats? And not to mention, when I do play and the stats come out the next day, my stats are good. But based on a 5-game segment, my stats are always going to be behind everybody's unless I have like lights out hockey where now all of a sudden my stats, I'm just blowing them through the roof.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm always going to be behind. So you have to actually base it off of how the games, like let's say 5-game increments.
Yeah.
Let's base off that. How am I doing? You're doing good. Okay. So then why shouldn't I play? Well, because your stats aren't good. Well, what are you talking about?
Oh, man.
Right? Like, that's where, like, when he lost me, that's where he lost me. And so then finally back in some games, and my next meeting with him is, he brings me and he goes, Shawn, I don't understand why you like to pass a puck through the middle of the ice. Well, I'm reading their forecheck. I see the open guy. Our centerman's usually in support somewhere. So I'm lower guy. Yeah, no, I don't like that. You need to start going off the glass. Well, okay, but he's open. Yeah, no, I really hate that about you. So now you need to get to the red line and you need to dump it in, or you need to off the glass. And I'm like, okay, so it's going to take all the creativity out of hockey. Yeah, we're good. So those are my two quick stories.
Jeez.
Where he just completely
tore you apart,
took all the skill out of it, the human feel to the game that actually Dave Tippett talked about recently.
Yep.
That he had a feel, and he said, okay, we're going to go with these guys because of it. There was none of that. So best story that I have, we're playing Peoria. And Peoria's got a few tough guys here and there, nothing too crazy, but they were just like a physical team, and they would like take runs at you. And there was a couple game stretch where they were taking runs, headshots. You know, there was a fight. I ended up fighting Jan Stosny at one point.
Okay.
And like, we were really good buddies. And I'm just like, okay, this is not going well. So Constantine's freaking out, and he pulls all of us off the ice. And he's like, we're not playing anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, Belle, shut up. We're not playing anymore. Okay. So he makes us stand at the bench while Peoria's in the defensive zone, in their defensive zone, about to drop the puck. And he's like, we need the ref over here. He's like, we're not playing. And so I mentioned earlier, like John Scott's on the team.
Yeah.
We got a kid named Eric Reitz, who's, he was a middleweight. Cal Clutterbuck was there. And Stoner was there. And actually all five of us were on the ice. So I look at Clutterbuck. I'm like, we might as well just start running them back. And he's like, we're not playing, guys. I'm serious, until the ref talks. And I'm like, he's not going to talk to you. He's still in the defensive zone. So they drop the puck. And
you guys are still on the bench. You're standing in front of the bench.
Right in front of the bench. And we haven't moved. And they've dropped the puck. And then what I saw after that, and from my recollection, was something straight out of Slapshot. It was just, they had a perfect five-man breakout. I think everybody touched the puck, and then all five of their guys got hit.
Really?
Yeah. It was like every guy just went to somebody and just hit them. And the puck ended up coming back to our net, and I cross-checked Trent Whitfield. You remember him?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a veteran AHL player. He's good. Doesn't do anything. And he cross-checks me back. We fall to the ice, and like both of our gloves are off. And then I'm kind of like looking up, and I see John Scott horse collaring guys and just throwing guys to the ground. and then Stoner's somewhere, and he's got some poor kid, and he's just beating the wheels off the poor guy. And I'll never forget it, because I look up and I'm just like, this could have been avoided.
Yep.
If Constantine just had a feel for the game, just let us go out there, right, and just play.
Yeah.
But you wanted to be the guy that has to dictate everything. And now we're in this ridiculous brawl, and the next game it's going to be another brawl because they haven't dressed any of their tough guys.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so they're going to dress a lineup.
So now they're going to dress a lineup, and here we are again. I'm like, just zero feel for the game.
None at all whatsoever. So what do you guys really think about him?
I really enjoyed him.
Really helped you a lot in your career.
Smart
guy.
systematic
You said that.
coach. Smart, systematic coach.
And a good family guy away
good
from
family guy. Hockey emotional intelligence score is
Yeah.
not very good.
Didn't have a good read
No.
on things.
No.
That's
Terrible.
interesting. Those are good stories.
Matt Barnaby was at the Alzheimer's event. Were you there?
Yeah,
And
I
he
was
shredded.
Did he shred him too?
Oh, man.
Really?
Oh, there's some good, and they're not my stories, so I'm not going to share them.
Yeah.
Some pretty good stories, because I think he had him was it Pittsburgh when Barnaby was there, and that was like when Yager was there, and so I've heard.
Oh, I'm sure that worked out well.
Oh, I've heard some of those stories. Like Rob Brown has got a couple good ones, like about their interactions, like Yager between them. But the one that I mean, it's hearsay, because someone told me this story. So this is a secondhand story. I mean, we don't want to get gossipy on it, but at the end, I guess Yager went into the owner's office and said, he's gone or I'm gone.
Yeah.
And then Constantine was done the next day.
That's the end of that then, yeah.
So just to add to that story, because I played with Andreas Johansson. He was my coach in Färjestad, and he played with Yager on that team.
Yeah.
And the whole rationale behind the whole thing was Constantine was a new coach coming in that year. And Pittsburgh, for their pregame skates, would always go no helmets. So Constantine's like, no, we're going to put an end to this. And so one morning skate, 2, 3, 4, and he's losing and he's sending guys off the ice. Come back with a helmet. And
This is morning skate or pregame skate?
this is more pregame skate.
Okay, pregame skate. Okay, yeah.
So this is fine. Everything happens, and Yager still's like, this is not happening. I'm not wearing a helmet because this is our routine. And this is also a secondhand story. So there was one time Constantine sends him off the ice. Don't come back out here until you have a helmet on. So Yager goes in the dressing room and he comes back out wearing a Viking helmet.
That seems about right. That's great. Jaromir Yager, he's playing at 47. He owns Kladno and he plays for Kladno still. I was looking at his stats. They're actually not bad for early in the season for a guy who's 47 years old. All right, let's get to it. Man, that was good. Fun little story time there with Shawn and Cass. That was good. All right, let's continue here with two guys and a goalie presented by Odd Shark. We talked about some of the starts here for some of these guys getting off to really good starts. Another guy who's off to a good start is Austin Matthews. He's got 5 goals in 3 games. We talked about how anytime he does anything early in the season, all of a sudden it's a 1A, 1B conversation with Connor McDavid, which I think is a little ridiculous and probably unfair to Matthews, but people like to have it anyway, right? It's unfair to Matt. He hasn't even broke 73 points in a season yet because he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and he has 3 good games, and all of a sudden you've got people in Toronto and some of the national media across the country saying, "Oh, yeah, he's the 1B to make." Like, to me, and I'm not even a big Leafs guy, but I think it's extremely frustrating for the kid who has to deal and hear that shit every single time he plays well. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Is he even the best player in his team?
Well, I mean, that's a question too. I mean,
Right,
some people might say Tavares, some people might say Marner, some people might say Matthews, but like, it just seems unfair. Like, why don't they have that conversation with a lot of other players either, right? Like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, he's like one of the guys that's supposed to be one of the franchise players, and people in Toronto are craving for a winner, and now they get this player that is dynamic. And make no mistake, he is dynamic. He can score. He's
Wicked shot,
unbelievable shot. But now they're trying to put him in this category in just a way that it almost makes him feel better. Like, sorry, like
I just don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, it's not necessary. Yeah. Like, there's a generational talent in Edmonton, and that's fine. Allow generational talents to be who they are.
Yeah.
And nobody's taking anything away from Matthews because he's an extremely good player, but his skill set is different than McDavid's.
100%.
It's not close to the same.
He's a goal scoring center, right? Like, That's basically what he is. Cash, you were smirking over there.
I was gonna say his shot is wicked hard though.
It's a wicked hard wrist.
Wicked hard wrister.
He does have a wicked hard wrister. Well, let's do our Popeyes poll question today, Hernan. Let's bring that up on the live stream if you're watching the live stream. If not, if you are listening to the podcast, thank you very much. We actually have had some pretty good 5-star rankings so far in the podcast. Actually, I think 3 of them were from Gager's family.
You know what we need more of though? We need more comments.
Yes, we do need more comments.
We got the rankings, but rank it, comments help too.
Yeah.
So even if you rate it 5 stars and then leave a really nasty comment.
Yeah.
But just give it 5 stars and comment.
I think somebody liked you and Gager and called me a fanboy. And I was okay with it. I mean, that's kind of the role that I play. So I understand. Here's the Popeyes chicken poll question today. Try Popeyes legendary Louisiana chicken today. Who is the second best player in the National Hockey League? If we're all saying that Connor McDavid's the best player in the National Hockey League, who is the second best player in the league? Is it Kucherov? Is it Matthews? Is it Crosby? Is it Nathan McKinnon? Is it somebody else?
I'm going to go with Nathan McKinnon. I think it's really close.
Like with all these guys, or majority of them, a couple of them? I
think Kucherov to me is more one-dimensional. Like, I think the rest.
That's a really good dimension.
I know it's a really good dimension. He's the most skilled, like pure. If we want to say pure skill, I'm gonna say Kucherov as far as being number 2. Crosby starting not towards the end. He's got a lot of years left, but not maybe quite as much of a powerhouse as he was. Maybe I think
he was still like top 5 in scoring last year. Like, he had like
really,
95
really
points or something like that.
I mean, it's close.
It's a tough question, right?
It is a tough question.
This is a better debate than saying, "Oh, Matthews is 1B behind," which is why I wanted to ask this question today.
I'm gonna just off the top of my head when I look at it, I go McKinnon. Just currently with what they're capable of, being an all around second best player. That's who I'm going with.
Belly, who are you going with?
Unfortunately, I have to agree with him. I just think that he's so dynamic with the puck. He has that speed that McDavid possesses as well. And he can hit you from anywhere. He can beat you with
he's
speed.
stocky too, eh? Like, he's thick.
Yeah. You're not knocking him off the puck, but he'll beat you with speed. He's got a wicked shot. He's got great hands. So he's kind of a round package in terms of that. Crosby, I feel he's had to change his game slightly because he's not the same player that he was, but he's still really good. And obviously Kucherov he's got awesome skill too.
Kucherov's absolutely nuts. So it's a good, I mean, it's funny because if McKinnon was playing in Toronto or Montreal or somewhere in Canada and did what he did in Colorado, we would have the 1A, 1B discussion with him when he has a good week, right? So I would agree with you guys. I think I'd have Nathan McKinnon as the second best player in the National Hockey League. I'd probably have Kucherov at number 3, and then I'd probably go Sidney Crosby in the top 5, round of the top 5. Do you think defensemen hate this question? They must hate this question. Hey, Belle, you play D. I mean, D-men must hate these types of questions.
They hate him. Just for the fact that you look at this list and all four of these guys are all dynamic players.
Yeah.
But you could make an argument that Hedman, he could be up.
Okay,
there
I was wondering which
he impacts the game in a different way, right? Like all these players they're just straight. They'll get you all the goals, but at the same time, like Cass, you can have it.
Cass, you can just take the mic.
I mean, clearly you're a defenseman because all the defensemen have to do is just. Like, you think for the defenseman on the Edmonton Oilers to have a really good season, all you have to do is go like this. 5-foot pass to Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid goes and does something amazing, and he scores. And you're like, it's a great defenseman doing his job.
Sounds like a pretty simple position to play.
It's really easy.
That sounds like a forward's comment.
I got an idea. I'm feeling some pressure. Someone's going to hit me. I'm just going to rim this puck around the boards and hope something happens. It's a forward's problem now.
I love the fact that these two guys have to share a mic today as they go back and forth on this because this is great. It's funny to see. All right, so there you go. That is your Popeye's Chicken poll question. Who is the second best player in the National Hockey League? We are kind of agreeing that is Nathan McKinnon, in our opinion. It is 2 guys and a goalie. It's episode 7. Remember, guys, at the end of the episode, we named the episode. Cass, we came up with that last Monday. And then Thursday's episode 6 was Gage Saves a Life, which was a really good story at the end of that episode. So keep that in mind as we work our way through this thing. Yeah, let's play Keep It or Clip It right now. I've got the questions. This is for Sport Clips Haircuts. Where it's good to be a guy, home of the MVP experience, one of our sponsors here on 2 Guys and a Goalie. So Keep It or Clip It, presented by Sport Clips. The guys know how it works, but if you're listening to the podcast for the first time, basically I make a statement or ask a question. If they agree with it, they keep it. If they don't agree with it, they clip it. Okay, so let's start with, I think we'll agree on this, but who knows? Winnipeg will trade for a D-man before November 1st.
Keep it.
You want to elaborate?
No.
That's it. He's just in and out.
Keep it.
You got to keep it, right?
Got to keep it.
Their blue line, first of all, was absolutely torn apart in the offseason. Now Josh Morrissey's a little bit banged up. He didn't even play in their 3rd game of the year, and they're not off to a great start. They've allowed 14 goals in 3 games. If you're Shovel Day off and you are paying tons of money up front, like Scheifele's actually on a pretty good deal, but you're paying Laine, you're paying Connors, you're paying Ehlers, you've got Wheeler. You cannot invest that much money up front and have a blue line that is almost unrecognizable around the National Hockey League. You just can't do it.
Well, according to Cass, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
All you have to do is rim the puck and get to the forward.
That's right. How come Poolman in Winnipeg can't just push the puck up to the forwards and get out of the way? Yeah, that's a good one. All right, here's a good one. Johnny Gaudreau is the most important player on the Calgary Flames. Keep it or clip it?
I'm going to clip that one. I think he is dynamic, no question. But Giordano's...
So you to go Gio?
He's a heartbeat of that team.
Yeah.
If they don't have him, they're a different team, in my opinion.
Cass? Are you going to keep it?
I'm going to keep it.
You are, hey?
I'm going to keep it. I agree that Giordano is the heartbeat of the team. I completely agree with that. I think you lose something big if you lose him. But if I look at it and I go, okay, who do they have in the back end? How are they able to step in? Where are they? Who do they miss more? And I just, from an offensive perspective, when I look at that team, I think losing Gaudreau for a long period of time would impact them more over the long term, like over the course of a season, than losing your buddy Giordano.
They're both good answers.
They're both really
I
good
think
answers.
they're both good answers. I wanted to ask that question. I want to see who the answer would be if it wasn't Johnny Gaudreau, and obviously Mark Giordano, a guy who had an amazing season last year, would be a pretty good pretty good answer to that question. If we're going to do keep it or clip it on every single episode, I'm going to mix in some non-hockey questions here as well, which I think will be fun. So grilled cheese sandwiches are better with ketchup. Keep it or clip it.
Keep it all day, every day. I question your sanity if you do not have ketchup on that bread.
Yes.
Okay.
Keep it.
But there's a but coming.
Unless there's tomato soup.
Okay, that was going to be my follow. I was thinking about a follow-up, and that would have been
if
it.
there's tomato soup, I preferred like dipping it in the tomato soup.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like ketchup. So
Yeah, you wouldn't. I guess tomato soup is kind of like ketchup.
they're made out of tomatoes.
Yeah, but there's a lot different going on there between tomato soup and
ketchup is just like way more sugar.
yeah.
It's tomato paste, sugar, and vinegar, and tomato soup's like
too, right? A little thicker.
a little. Well, yeah, because whatever.
Oh.
You guys are jerks.
You're right though. It is unnecessary. I don't see anybody who ever sits there and has a grilled cheese sandwich with ketchup and has tomato soup as well. That just doesn't make any sense. I was hoping one of you guys wouldn't like ketchup on your grilled cheese sandwiches because I was going to lose it on you. It sounded like Sean would have lost it on you as well. So, all right, let's get back to. Oh, here's a good one. Jacob Markstrom is a top 15 goaltender in the National Hockey League. Of course, he's the number one guy in Vancouver. Keep it or clip it. This is a close one, right?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I was going to go sideways. I got one or two Markstrom stories because he'd always stretch at the red line, and I would too when he was in San Antonio.
So you chat with him?
So we'd chat a whole bunch. He was a chatty guy.
Was he a DJ as well? Did you find out?
I don't know. I didn't find that out.
Thought these Swedes, the DJs.
Man, this is a tough one for me because I almost feel like
he's close, right?
He's close, and how would he be if he was on a team that had like stellar defensemen? Like if he was on a really good team, because really, if we look at it, he hasn't been. He wasn't the starting goalie when they had like really good Canucks teams.
Yeah.
And how would he be if he was on a really good team? Like if you put him, if you put him in like in a San Jose, for example, like how good would he be? A team with good.
Yeah, is he better than Martin Jones?
Right.
And I bet you a lot of San Jose fans would say, yes, he is. Because Jones is, yeah.
Yeah. So I, you know what? I'm going to lean towards keep it.
Okay.
I'm going to lean towards keep
All right.
it. I think he cracks. Because we look at the top half. I think he cracks that. Maybe not by a ton, but I think he cracks that. So good for you.
I think there's a lot of guys kind of in that sort of group, right? Where, if they're in the right spot, they're a top 15 goaltender. If they're not, are you keeping it or clipping it, Billy? Did you?
I might keep it, but I think he's more of like the range is like 12 to 17.
Okay, yeah, somewhere in
Right?
there.
Like somewhere in there, and Cass just mentioned San Jose, but would he be good in San Jose?
I don't know.
Because look at the defensemen they have. Like Bernsey, love Bernsey, but he doesn't really play D that much. Nor does Carlson. So like,
You think he might be hung out to dry a little bit there too?
maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, what team are you on? Like let's call it Winnipeg's D core last year. What kind of numbers will he have?
Yeah, or behind the
That
Washington Capitals, like Braden
Exactly,
Holtby. Like,
right.
is he?
Yeah.
Is he a top 15 goalie in the league? Then that might be. I wanted to ask that question because I think, I think it was Gage who kind of had a little bit of a love in for the Canucks this season. And to me, the Canucks have brought in some decent pieces, but their season is going to come down to if Markstrom can get the job done between the pipes. So I wanted to ask that question. We can revisit that one a little bit later in the year. James Neal will score 25 goals for the Oilers this year. Keep it or clip it.
I'm going to keep it. James Neal is going to be the beneficiary of playing on the top unit with Draisaitl, Nuge, McDavid.
On that power play.
100%. He's going to sit in front, just kind of like he did, and just shovel pucks in the net.
Cass, what do you think?
Yeah, I was talking about this on one of our
on the pregame show.
Yeah, here in Edmonton. All he needs to do, and the only thing James Neal needs to do to score 25 goals is to go and to stand kind of halfway in between the post and the face-off dot on either side of the net, depending on where the puck is. If he goes to those spots with playing on the power play in particular, or even just 5-on-5, he's going to score 25. So keep it.
It's funny because he scored those 2 goals exactly where they wanted Lucic to score 20 goals every year. They're the exact same spot.
And that's the exact same spot that Patrick Maroon scored those goals. Like
That's true, you're
how
right.
many goals did Patrick Maroon score skating down the wing, like on his offhand, ripping at top cheese? Like it didn't happen. Where he scored was in front of the net, off to the side of the net, where you find that soft little spot where no one defenseman.
They don't got enough guys on the ice
to cover you because they're all worried about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's where you're going to score your goals.
Yeah, that is where it's going to pay off for him. I would probably agree with you guys. The thing that I find interesting, though, is in that game, Alex Chason didn't play. And usually Chason's the guy on that top power play. But, Belle, do you think early in the season you see a guy bury a couple on a power play? If you're Dave Tippett, you probably have to leave him there for a little bit, don't you? I know it's not ideal to have 5 left-handed shots, but it worked.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but like you said, it does work. I just think that Neil's got a bit of a better scoring touch than Chason does.
Yeah.
So having him in that spot is
He scored 20 every year in his career, except for
Exactly.
last year, right? So,
and no disrespect to Chason, but he's not in that same boat.
Mm.
And I think having Neil there is probably a better fit because he can clean up those rebounds.
all right, let's do another non-hockey question. Clapping at the end of a movie is weird. Keep it or clip it.
I mean, can we preface this with, does the movie suck or is
No,
it a good
no,
movie?
clapping
I don't
at-
think it's weird. I don't think it's weird.
Hey, you're
Like,
not clapping for like a live
so
show.
you clap at a hockey game. It's a live show, and it's like you're experiencing something with somebody.
You're not clapping for the person next to you.
Yeah, but it's showing your appreciation. I don't think it's weird at all.
I asked this because I went and saw Joker on Friday in Montreal. And for those of you listening on the podcast, go see that Joker movie. It was good. But it was, so I'm sitting there. I went by myself because we were talking about going to a movie by yourself is awesome. So I'm sitting there and it ended. And in my mind, I was like, wow, that was a really good movie. And then you just hear the crowd start clapping. I didn't clap because I think it's weird. Because who do you clap? Like when you're doing a round of applause, you're usually doing it for someone there in front of you. And that's in front of a screen. It doesn't make any sense.
So you show up at a Oilers game or a hockey game.
Okay.
Who is actually? You know what? Let's go. I know the answer to this, but please share. Who's your favorite hockey player of all time?
Saku Koivu.
Okay, so you show up, and
Yeah.
tonight is the night that they are honoring Saku Koivu.
Yeah.
Now he's not in the building, but they show like a Saku
Oh, you're
Koivu video
stretching
on
pretty
the screen.
hard here,
How am I
man.
stretching pretty hard? Okay, let's say they're retiring his number, and they show a video. Are you going to clap?
Well, he's going to be there if they're retiring his number, which I still think they should, but they never will.
Okay, so what if let's say he's not there? Let's change this a little bit. Let's just say they like show like an ultimate Saku Koivu highlight package.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there watching it. It's during an intermission. Are you going to clap when you see the package?
Well, I couldn't clap because I'd be crying so hard because you're so damn good for the half. So, I think you're reaching here, but okay, your last one kind of makes sense. But Belle, what do you think of clapping at the end of a movie?
I think it's weird.
Yes, it is
And you're
weird.
trying to like justify it. I don't understand it.
I don't know if we should listen to what Cass has to say about movie etiquette though, because
Cass should be on speak probation for the next 5 minutes.
that's the final 5 minutes of the he's been on speak probation the entire podcast today, having to share a mic. That's tough.
You were better off saying, "Hey, what if there was a YouTube video with Saku Koivu? Will you clap?"
Yeah, if I was sitting at home watching a YouTube video of Saku Koivu, when it's done, I'm not gonna clap for the guy. You know, like that's so weird.
But what if you were watching it there with 10 or 15 other Saku Koivu fans?
I don't think we'd clap for it, man. I don't think we would.
I do not believe
You think I'd clap for
I
it?
think you clap for it.
That's kind of weird. All right, one more question here for Sport Clips Haircuts. Keep it or clip it. Austin Matthews will score 50 goals this year. Who wants to take that one? Austin Matthews will score 50 this year.
Clip it. You'll be hurt soon.
If he stays healthy, he gets 40.
Only 40? Jeez, I don't even like the guy, and I think he gets 45 if he stays healthy.
Maybe 45.
Okay, well then we can agree on that.
Okay.
That's good. All right, so that's going to do it for another installment of Two Guys and a Goalie. It's presented by Oddshark. We need a name for this episode, and I have a suggestion, but I don't think it's a good idea to put in the title of a podcast, and that would be Episode 7, Mic Issues. Like I just don't think that would be a good idea.
That wouldn't be bad. I was thinking we could go episode 7 like BFFs or like Friends Forever.
Oh, because you got Friends
Yeah,
Forever.
Friends
That's
Forever.
nice.
That's a good
because of
one.
you two guys,
Yeah.
not me, obviously. But although it sounds like Belle might like me more than he likes you right now, Cass, to be honest with you. All right, so episode 7, Friends Forever. Gager's going to hate that title because he wasn't here. He's going to be rattled by that. He really is.
It's a bit of a shot to Gager. I like it.
It is. It is.
Friends
It's good.
forever.
Sean, thanks for stepping in these last two. It's good to know that we've got a third guy we can bring in the group.
I appreciate the invite, guys. It's been awesome.
All right, that's going to do it for us for episode 7, Friends Forever, for Two Guys and a Goalie, presented to you by Oddshark. Check them out at oddshark.com. Popeyes, Louisiana Kitchen Chicken. Try Popeye's legendary Louisiana chicken today. And Sport Clip Haircuts, home of the MVP experience. Thank you very much. If you watch the live stream, if you're downloading the podcast, make sure you give us a good ranking and leave some comments so we can read those on Thursday. For Hernan Salas in the corner, Matt Kassian and Shawn Belle, I'm Dustin Nielson. Thanks for listening to episode 7.
Bye.